Hi there, and welcome to Medical Girl Mystical World. I'm your host, Dr. Julia Spinello, and today we have Brigit Esselmont, who is the founder of Biddy Tarot, and this is like the Wikipedia for tarot. I use this every day. I get your emails every day. She has courses that are online. She has a podcast. She has a new book that we're going to talk about. And we're just going to talk about using tarot every day and how it can help with us manifest and how it can help living our best life. So welcome, Brigit.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
All the way from Australia.
I know.
I'm so lucky, you guys. So you are like, even though you're not old enough, but you are like the grandmother of tarot. And you've been doing this since the 90s.
I know, since I was 17, which is a while ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's almost 20 years. And in fact, actually, the Biddy Tarot will be 20 years old next year. We just realized, which is crazy.
Yeah. That's awesome. So you started, your background is as a teenager, you kind of dabbled in tarot and looked at different things. Tell us how you honed into it to make it where it made sense to you, because this is my thing, because I studied tarot as well. But when I was studying it, it was directly like by the book. And I'm very, very academic mindset. So I'm like, okay, I need to make sure that these things are right. What I really like about your approach is that you give the guidelines, but also you bring in other people's intuitions to make them what it is to them. So tell me how you figured that out and how you make it so easy to flow as you teach it to other people. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So it's interesting that you say that you were learning tarot when you were kind of in an academic mindset, because I was as well, 100%. When I started learning tarot, I was studying at university, and you know how it rolls at, university or college, where to get really good at something, you read all of the books, you become an expert at it, you just memorize, you just learn everything, and then you'll be an expert. That's how you become the master.
Right.
And so I thought I would apply those kinds of principles to how I learned to read tarot. So certainly in those first, probably good 5, almost 10 years of reading tarot, it was very much by the book and very much about, okay, I've got to learn all of these different systems. But there was a point at which, I was doing readings for other people, and I realized that, it was one thing to be memorizing and recalling things from the book, but the readings just didn't flow. I don't know if you had that experience too. When you're learning by the book, you're like, okay, well, card number 1 means this, and card number 2 means this, right? And it's just not that like yummy, juicy like flow in the reading. So I started to introduce more of my own intuition into my readings, and I really made an effort to put the book away, forget about what all the right meanings were, and I allowed my intuition to flow in my readings, and that's when everything changed. So my readings became much more like in a story format, and it became much more in alignment with where my client was at when I was reading for them. And, this wasn't a reading that you could find by flipping through the book.
Right.
It was something that became much more of a story and just related on a much deeper level with the people I was reading for. And then just really in the last few years, I've really shifted away from reading for other people and now refocusing on reading for myself and using tarot as part of my like more intuitive process for how I get more connected with my own intuition. And it's kind of come this full circle, right? Because when we start reading tarot, we read it for ourselves and we go out and we read for other people.
Right.
And now I'm back to reading for myself, and I find it just a really yummy, juicy experience. And that's now what I'm teaching others to do, is how do you get into more of that intuitive flow with readings where you have that permission to not worry about what's in the book,
Right.
but just go with what's feeling right in that time.
That's
and,
great.
How your intuition is playing through the cards.
Right. And you have an online course. And how many people do you have that are certified Biddy Tarot?
Oh gosh, I'm just trying to recall. I think we're up to at least 300 certified Biddy Tarot readers, and we have more going through the program right now, which is
great.
just, it brings me so much joy. I'm so excited that we have, these readers going out into the world who are highly ethical, professional, really great at what they're doing, and who are ultimately shifting the whole perception around tarot, which is, that's my goal.
Yes, and I want to talk about that too, because there are the myths and the misconceptions of tarot. So a lot of people think that having their tarot cards read, they go to one of these drive-by street things with the Sister Rose or some other name, and there's, it's dark, and you have the crushed velvet and the crystal ball, and she comes through the beaded curtains and that mystery and everything, which it's really not. I mean, you have all those theatrics, and some people may enjoy that, but to really have what the purpose of getting the tarot for, people think that it is for predicting of the future, when really it is what is going on right here and now, and how to work with what you got, and also to help with manifestation. So tell me about the misconceptions that you've had, how those evolved over the years with you doing tarot, and what you want people to know about tarot now. It's a lot of questions in that, and so we can break it down, but let's just kind of go with that and tell me what you think.
So when I first started to read tarot, I thought, okay, I've got to find something like a headscarf to wear, and all this jewelry, and, put on my dark eyeliner. But that just wasn't me. I was, 19, 20 years old. And that's why I got started reading online, because I could actually hide behind the screen and people didn't have to see me. I could just get on with the act of doing the tarot reading, which is really lovely. And in fact, when I did my first face-to-face reading, I thought, I'm going to have to try and glam it up a little bit. But I still retained who I was. I wore jeans. I wore, my favorite top, and I think I put a scarf on.
Yeah.
And it was fine, right? So we have this crazy idea that we have to be something else, that there's this expectation that a tarot reader will have the crushed velvet, the eyeliner, and all that, all that good stuff, right? It is the theatrics of it all.
Yeah.
And sometimes that has a place. I don't want to discount that at all. But I think what we're really starting to see is this shift now to a lot of younger people, a lot more men also reading the cards. And the way in which we're reading the cards is very different. So instead of what you see on the movies, which is, person sits down and says, all right, tell me my future. And then reader pulls the card and says, it's the death card. You're about to die. And there's something they pull off their chair.
The death card is not what that's about.
No. That's right. So it's in fact a very different process. And for me, it's not so much about predicting your future, it's about creating your future. And when we're focused on the present moment, because it's the present moment where we get to change things.
Yeah.
We get to focus on, what's surrounding a situation, how am I feeling about this situation, and knowing what I know now, how can I start to take action to create the outcomes that I most want in my life? So to me, the magic is in this present moment. It's in that place where you can make those changes. And then the actual reading becomes so much more about what is it that I want to grow and create in my life? And then what actions do I need to take to get there? Which is so much better than going, so how's this new relation going to go? The relationship. And then you get it's a 5 of Swords. Yep, it's ruined. All right, next. What else? What else do you want to reading about, right? Yeah. It's so disempowering when we're in that space. So I much prefer the reading style where it's more empowering to say, all right, well, if you want this relationship to continue, we can see that there might be some issues ahead. How are you going to best deal with those so that you can get to the place that you want to get to in that relationship? How much yummier is that?
Right. So what would you tell people that have never had a tarot reading, what to kind of look out for? Because they're coming in not knowing what to expect. And what would you tell them, like the red flags of somebody that's legitimate and somebody that doesn't scare them and think that, like, you know, oh my God, they get the death card and the fear, you know, what would you tell them to look out for to make sure that they get a good tarot reader?
Yes. So definitely, if someone's saying to you, all right, I see something really good coming up, but you'll need to pay me another $50 and I'll show you what it is.
We talked about this in a show that I had earlier with Shady Psychics and Healers. Funny that you say that. Okay, so same with tarot readers.
Yes. Yeah. And look, I hope that's few and far between, right? You'll also get kind of a really broad spectrum of tarot reading styles. Now, as a client, you might really want that predictive reading. That might be the thing that you're desperate for. You desperately want to know when you're going to meet your husband. You don't care how you're going to go about it. You don't care what actions you're going to take. You just want to know when it's going to happen. And in that case, like, go see a predictive reader. That's perfect for you. But if you're someone who's a little bit more proactive and who might like to take more accountability for their future,
right, then
go see a reader who is more open to creating a conversation. And this is something I talk about with our students. It's very much about co-creating a reading. And it's interesting because oftentimes you get clients, they come in, they sit down, they go, all right, I'll have my reading, thanks. And then the reader goes, okay, so what would you like to know? And the client says, I don't know, you tell me. I'm like, that's the worst. So I think there does need to be an expectation set up that it is a conversation. And when you have a conversation between tarot reader and tarot client, I believe that there's just so much more that you get out of that reading because you're starting to get into building up awareness within that person. You're starting to build up accountability and responsibility for the actions that you take and where that leads you to. So to me, that whole co-created reading, the conversation, that to me is where the gold is.
Right. Yeah. And we had talked about before the show with people coming in and you get these questions like, how am I going to die? Or am I going to have this terrible disease? Or how do you handle that with people? Because you are not, we had talked about, you're not psychic. You would not consider yourself a psychic or clairvoyant, correct?
I identify with intuitive.
Okay.
But for me, so it's interesting actually, the definitions of what we perceive are the definitions around these, because to me, psychic is that I will have a very clear picture and I know 100% that this is the date it's going to happen. But I don't even believe in like things that happen on certain dates because I believe in free will and that we make our own choices. So I guess that's why I say I'm more intuitive. It's more in alignment with my belief system and my approach to life. But yeah, sorry, I've just sidetracked you on that.
No, go ahead. But so I wanted you to say that it's more of the intuition and not saying, okay, this is what's going to happen. It is because we do have free will of how we take the information, how we go about it. I don't think that people should go to someone to get answers. I think every answer that we are searching for is within ourselves.
Yes.
And I think that what you teach, which I think is very beautiful, is looking at the tarot as a guide and for that insight. It does. It kind of is, you know, if you're stuck and you draw a couple of cards and you really look at them and assess them, how is this applying to me today? And I think that's what you do is you have them do that and, you know, how to get to manifest or how to handle a situation. So let's talk about manifesting. You have a whole chapter about this in your book. I love it because I'm all about manifestation, but just give me just a quick little glimpse, so you don't have to go through the whole chapter because you've done a lot of manifestations in your life with your career, and tell me how you use the cards for manifestation.
So I start using tarot with the goal setting process right up front, because I think our brains can see some potential, but we also have to drop into our subconscious, our intuition. And I think when we do that, that's the piece that gets us more in alignment with our highest potential. So the way I like to use it is like, let's say if I'm doing a launch for our business and my head might go, all right, I think we can attract 150 new students. So then I go, okay, how does that feel? Okay, that feels pretty good. All right, so that's one goal. And then I'll go, I wonder if we could attract 200 students. What about 250 or 300, right? So I set up all of these goals. And, you know, even I might be saying 300 students. Oh, gosh, that feels like way out there. So I'll draw a card for each of these goals. And what I've found is that it's just showing me where my highest potential is. And interestingly, it doesn't always go, oh, really big goal over there, you need that one.
Right.
Because sometimes I've seen like where I go for a really big goal, it may come at a cost. It may be that, well, yeah, sure, you could achieve it, but at what cost? You know, maybe you don't get to see your family as much. Maybe, you know, your whole team is completely exhausted as a result. And then on the flip side, sometimes when I have lower goals, it might show me, well, yeah, you can do that, but you're going to be kind of a little bit bored. Or it's just not like, yeah, that's easy, but not, you know, expansive and yummy.
Right.
So for me, it's this goal calibration that I do with the tarot that just aligns me in with, again, my highest potential and what I'm here to do. So it's kind of like step one, get those goals like beautiful and in alignment. And then what I like to do next is I've got a beautiful manifestation tarot spread, which is in the book.
Yeah.
And the goal with that is to say, okay, well, now that I've found this goal, how am I in full relationship with it right now? Do I have some of that fear still in there? Do I need to like release some of that? Or am I in full alignment right now? What actions can I take? You know, what challenges might be ahead? What opportunities might be there? And, you know, overall, where are things heading? So that helps me in that journey piece of how to start getting things going. And then, I mean, I really like just using tarot cards just randomly throughout the day. So I'll be continuously like checking in and saying, okay, am I kind of heading in the right direction here? Or if something feels out of balance, I might draw a card to say, okay, what's going on here?
Right.
So it's definitely that method of inquiry.
Right.
Where it is that reflection, you know, it's the soul, it's the mirror to the soul that we're working with here, where it's reflecting in, okay, am I in the right direction? Or do I need to make some adjustments?
What do you say to people when they have the tarot deck and they draw a card and they don't like it and they keep drawing and drawing and drawing and they rely on the tarot card and just to trying to get them to say, oh, okay, the fifth card, okay, I'm going to do it again. And if I get it again, then this is, what do you tell people that, you know, they kind of use it as a crutch?
Yeah.
So what is your advice for people when they do that?
I'm laughing because I am guilty. So,
well,
I've had those moments where I draw the card and I'm like, oh, nope. And in fact, I'll tell you a story.
Okay, I just revealed something about Brigit that you may not have known.
Hashtag tarot confessions.
I bet there is a hashtag tarot confessions.
Totally. There should be one.
Oh, we'll create it.
Up.
Yes.
Okay. But so when I was evaluating publishers for the book, actually, we were sending out proposals and we were talking with the publishers, and it was before they sent in their proposal for the book. And I drew a few cards for each of the publishers I met with, and I had a really great meeting with one, and I was like, yes, this is it. And I draw the card, and I think it was like the Three of Swords. I'm like, as if, no. So I drew another one, right? And it was another like kind of similar message. And then I was like, oh, this is silly. And I put it away.
Yeah.
But I'm not kidding you. Like a month later, that same publisher, we'd had a really great meeting, and then they submitted their proposal and it was super disappointing. And it was exactly the Three of Swords right there. I'm like, oh man, okay, I've learned from this. Thank you, universe.
Yeah.
So look, it does happen. Like we do have those moments where we can draw cards and it's like, I don't want this message. It feels like it's the wrong message, but it usually is exactly what you need to know at that point. So my recommendation or my suggestion is, even in those cases, just note it down and come back to it even in like a month's time, because oftentimes you're just not ready to hear that message there and then. things need to evolve, especially if you're somewhat out of alignment with that particular situation, or maybe you're just not ready to hear the truth. So definitely record the reading, come back to it later. The other thing that's really important, and I didn't do this when I did the publisher spread, is to set up your sacred space before a reading. So I don't know about you. Sometimes I'm a bit on the fly. I'm like, grab the cards, quick pull a few cards.
Oh, no, I have a ritual when I do energy work.
Yes, you need it, right?
Yeah, you do.
Because if you don't have it, then you end up in this place where you're like just in a mind rush. You're still up in your head. You haven't dropped into your heart. So just even doing some like calming, clearing breaths, closing your eyes, meditating.
And you do that. You have the steps to do before each reading, which I think is beautiful.
Yes.
Because I was reading, I was like, this is what needs to be, that people need to know, instead of just grabbing the cards, but really, getting into your heart center, breathing, and then just allowing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise you could end up like me, going, oh, I don't like that. How it goes.
But I'm glad that you saw that, later on, I hate that was, that it was a disappointment, but it was kind of telling you, and you're like, I don't want to hear that now.
Yeah. Whereas, say, with our current publisher, Running Press, I think I drew on like the 9 of Cups, a really positive card, and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, but I really want this publisher. And so I kind of ignored that message too. And then when everything had kind of evolved and I'd seen things play out, I was like, oh, of course they're the 9 of Cups. They got the concept beautifully, and it was just a perfect alignment in the end. But again, because I hadn't set up that sacred space, I just was still in my head, and I hadn't allowed myself that opportunity to see what the cards were trying to tell me. So mistake made, lessons learned.
But you know what? I'm glad that you shared that, because you're learning this too. I mean, even though you have this wonderful company and you have all these students and you have all of this stuff that people can access, I mean, you're human. And you do. And you're realizing that. And so I really appreciate you sharing that story and showing, that little vulnerability there. I'm like, dang, I messed that up a little bit. Yeah. I mean, thank you for showing that. I think I'm just really glad she said that, because people, they put you up on the pedestal there, which you very rightfully should be. But I mean, really, we do. You're human,
but
and
we're all human, right?
Yeah.
And I think if we set up these expectations that we're going to be ultra spiritual all the time, it's unrealistic. And I guess that's part of this whole idea of making tarot accessible. I don't want us to feel like, oh, I can't be a tarot reader. I can't learn the cards because it's, it's way over there, that I need to know all these things. I need to be super spiritual to be in that space. No, you can just be you, and you can just connect with the cards.
I love that.
Because the cards are just showing right back at you. And that's the important piece.
Kind of going back to with learning tarot, because I think that people are confused with, because I did buy the book, and then I'm trying to go with that intuition, because people present like, okay, this suit means this, and these numbers mean this, but then let your intuition come. How can you find a nice balance of getting the foundations of the tarot card meaning, but also bringing in that intuitive side?
So I believe that getting a good basic understanding of the traditional card meanings is a great way to start. So, just learn what those cards mean, but also at the same time, just allow yourself that permission that if you do feel something intuitive starting to flow through you, allow that to come through.
Okay.
And what starts to happen is you would start more with those basic traditional meanings of the cards. Then you start to notice that your intuition sometimes comes through, and that's nice. You just become aware of that and observe it. And then eventually you start to make this transition to, all right, well, I know that all of those basic meanings, they're probably stored in my subconscious now. I can let all of that go. And now I can just be in flow with it. And instead of all of that worry about, is it the right meaning? I've got this other meaning. Oh my goodness, I can't find it on Biddy Tarot. It must be wrong. So it's just about letting go of all of that worry and stress, and just knowing that this is it's like a tandem process that's going on. We're combining that rational, logical part, which is understanding what the cards mean and this collective knowledge about the cards. And then we're also acknowledging and honoring our individual knowledge and wisdom around the cards. So it's this beautiful intermeshing of both that happens.
So I've heard that for people to have their first tarot card, it is always best for someone to gift them the tarot cards. What are your feelings about that?
Whatever.
I thought so too, because when I bought mine, I'm like, nobody gave me mine. Are these gonna work?
Do you know what it's like? It's like when you get engaged, right?
Yeah.
So the whole traditional thing was that your like fiance or boyfriend would give you the ring, but like my husband and I, we changed that up completely. He proposed with like this green plastic ring, so that then we could go and choose the ring together.
Yeah.
So I think tarot cards somewhat similar in that it's such a personal relationship with the cards, and I think it's important that you find cards that really connect with you. When someone else gives them to you, I mean, I've had friends give me tarot cards and I'm very appreciative of them, but I look at them and go, ugh, not for me. I'd much rather choose them for myself. And, does that mean that you're completely ruined forever and won't be able to read with that deck? No way. I think that's just one of those myths.
What's your favorite deck?
Well, Everyday Tarot, of course.
The one that she created. But of course. Do you ever use angel cards or oracle cards?
Angel cards, no, but oracle cards, yes. And I really enjoy oracle cards alongside a tarot reading. So I might do a full tarot reading, and then to really get to that core theme in the reading, then I'll draw an oracle card at the end. And it's amazing how it becomes almost the thread that goes through that whole reading, and it just sums it up beautifully. It's like really yummy. Or sometimes I might even do that oracle card at the start, and it's a way of just kind of setting the scene. Particularly, I think, if you have, say, a person who's new to tarot, like a new client, it could be a really great way of starting that reading, because oracle cards are generally more positive and like nice and isn't the world beautiful. So it could be a really nice way of just easing it into then the reading, which will show light and shade for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So your book is called Everyday Tarot, and I'm going to hold this up. And you actually have a deck too. Do we want to zoom in on here? So you have the deck and the book, but one of the things that I like that you do is having tarot part of our everyday, hence the Everyday Tarot. Give me, again, we would like people to buy your book and your cards, but give me just a little piece of how we can use tarot every day.
So one of the things that I include in the book is a sunrise and a sunset ritual, which is really yummy. And for the sunrise, so maybe it's when you get up, or if you're really good, if you can get up when the sun is rising and you can get into the sunlight, that's like perfect. And at that point, think about it like it's the start of the day. It's like, whoa, all these opportunities are starting to emerge for that day. So draw a card for either what is emerging for me today, or how can I reach into my highest potential, or, what new opportunities are available for me today. So imagine if you started your day with that, with just like what's emerging for me. And, just pull the card, journal it, just some yummy stuff. It can only be like 5 minutes, right? We're not talking, an hour-long whole shebang ritual.
Analyzing everything. Like, oh my God, how's my day going to be?
That's it.
And that's when you pick another card.
It's the tower. No.
It's the tower. Get it away. Now it's the death card.
And notice too, the questions that I said are not what's going to happen today, but more about like what's emerging for me. What can I do to be my highest potential? And I think when we're asking questions like that, it's much more that method of inquiry, and what can I feel and sense like within myself, and how can I bring more of myself into my day, versus like what's happening outside of me. Oh, I've just given all my power away to the cards and what's going to happen. We're actually bringing that power back in and going, you know what, I've got all the answers in here. I'm a wise being. I can access all of that. And then using that throughout the day.
That's perfect, because it's all about being your best self and what you can do each day to become your best self. And that is a way to use tarot to do that.
Absolutely. Yes.
I love
so that's
it.
The sunrise. Then we've got the sunset.
Oh my goodness, it gets better.
So when the sun's setting, and again, if you can be out in the sunlight as it's going down, if you can see the sun setting, then it's pulling a card and just asking, what am I grateful for today? Because you think about it, again, the sun's setting, it's like, wow, we've just had this amazing day. What's been something that's been really good? It might have been a really crappy day.
Yeah.
You can always find something good. And so then imagine if you were doing this sunrise, sunset, like we're literally talking 10 minutes a day, 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. Do that every day. I think you're going to feel like so much better. All the cells in your body are going to feel good.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to feel grateful for your life. You're going to see all of those beautiful opportunities that are emerging for you. So yeah, that's an easy way of doing it.
I love it. What's your favorite tarot card?
Oh, do you know, I quite like the Tower, even though it's one of those cards I don't like seeing it in a reading. But the Tower is about shaking things up. And on a really deep soul level, I'm very energized about that whole idea of like just shaking stuff up and making things different. And that's the way I'm operating with tarot. I really want to change the face of tarot. I want to change what tarot is really about. And it being more of this creation, manifestation type of tool, and something that, you know, younger and older people can use in their everyday life. Something that's, you know, mainstream and normal and everyday, of course.
Right.
So to me, that's what the Tower is for me. That's like really my sole purpose, is just kind of ripping it all apart and rebuilding it in a really beautiful way.
And you are absolutely doing that. Where like the healing arts is coming in to make it more mainstream, and tarot mainstream. So thank you for being our trailblazer for that.
My pleasure.
I really appreciate it. Okay, so at the end of my show, I like to ask my guests some questions, and it's nothing too personal, but it's called 5 Fast Q&A. And it just kind of gives us a little peek of, you know, something outside of, you know, your tarot world and what you do. So what is your favorite quote?
Oh, there is one from Abraham Lincoln, and he says, the best way to predict your future is to create it.
I love that.
I love it.
Okay. Cake or pie?
Oh, geez, probably pie. Although I have to say, we don't really have pie and cake in Australia.
Okay.
We have like, I don't know what we'd have, pastries or...
So it's kind of like a both cake and pie.
I'll take both, yeah.
Okay, there you go. What is the favorite app on your phone?
Oh dear. Well, I'd have to admit it's probably the most used app on my phone is my Gmail inbox and Slack for my work. But... well, I'll tell you what, I have a love-hate relationship with my phone. So pretty much every app on my phone is one of those ones where I might feel like I need to press it and see it. Like, oh, what's the weather today? Or what's the news, right? Yeah. And I'm like, why am I looking at this stuff? So actually, I'd be happy with like no apps on my phone. It'd probably keep me away from my phone, which is a good thing.
See, these questions like stir up things. And you're like, I never thought of it. Okay. Do you think that aliens exist?
Oh, I don't want to say no, because I know that many people believe that they do. So to me, that holds out a possibility. And I guess I'm sitting somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
I'm curious to find out more.
Okay. Dine in or take out?
Oh, dine in. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get better quality food, right? Because when you take it out, you've got to go home. It might be cold.
Yeah. And then you have the ambiance and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Brigit, thank you so much for being on my show.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yay.
It's fun.
And tell people how they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on biddytarot.com, and we're also on Instagram at Biddy Tarot and Facebook at Biddy Tarot as well. Basically everything Biddy Tarot. And you can find out more about the Everyday Tarot book at everydaytarot.com.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you for joining us, and remember, health is not just about medicine. See you next time.